particular scene, if you notice, I know it's really dark in here, so you really couldn't necessarily see all that was happening, but your eyes didn't play tricks on you. That the character who was lip syncing to Stephanie Mills' I Never Knew Love Like This Before did indeed climb out of a casket. And so this actually was, this was one of the characters from the television show who was even seen as an outcast among many of the other trans women. You know, in every community, you got those who are favored and then those who are outcast. And so Candy, the character, unfortunately, was, I mean, this is a spoiler for those who have not seen, but she was murdered as in herself being a black trans woman. And here it was at her funeral where she was finally being honored for the beauty that she was. And the reason why I wanted to begin my message with that clip is because in that clip, it epitomizes the message I would like for all of us to understand. That how wonderful it is that sometimes when we feel like the outcast, there are people who can come to our aid and will celebrate us. Hopefully it's not too late, but at a time that lets you know how valuable you are, how special you are, and how beloved you are in the eyes of God. Amen. That is what I believe Metropolitan Community Church of Detroit and all MCCs should be about. A time where people can come and to celebrate each other and recognize when the rest of the world doesn't value us, we have a community that will gather around us. And so the question I want to begin with is this. Has MCC Detroit provided you with love, acceptance, welcome, a good cup of coffee, understanding at the time you needed it, being consoled in your time of grief and bereavement? If this church has been that for you, then you are at a place where you can say, wow, I have not known love like this. I did not know a community could be like that. So the question really is, how are you reciprocating that love? Would you please bow your hearts? God, we thank you again for the opportunity we have to go into your word, to grow deep, and to grow in a place where we have not been before, because we recognize we cannot explore the depths of your love. So we pray that not only will we experience that love, but you will teach us how to reciprocate it to those who you have called your children. We love you and say thank you again for your presence here this morning. In your name we pray. Amen. Do you feel like you are a partner in this ministry? Many of you, this is your first time attending. Many of you have been here for 30 plus years. Some maybe even more than that. Is this more than just a place that you come to get your good cup of coffee? But is this a place where you can find your tribe? People who are just like you. People who have been told one thing, that you're not welcome here, but I know here at this place, they see me. They value me. They want me because what I have to offer is special, it's worthy. You know, long gone are the days for some where everyone in the community on a Sunday would gather at a church for worship. The shops would all shut down, and it was a expectation of the culture to say, well, of course we know what you're doing on Sunday morning. But now, oftentimes when we get up on Sunday morning, we have a variety of options. We can make ourselves a good cup of coffee at home and not be with other folks. We can turn on television and receive the message that way, or for even those of you who still have your radio, you can turn on a message there as well. But there is still something about coming into a place with other people that you call your own. They are your family. They are your tribe. Those who know your ups and downs, and in fact, when you try to fake it, they know you. Like, what's really going on? Tell me. Okay, come sit with me. Or give me a call after service. People who really have taken time to get to know you, and they're being supportive of you. Have you ever experienced that type of love? Because we know many times for LGBTQ and in fact even allied individuals, we don't have that type of love within our own biological families. In fact, there's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of judgment. In fact, we have to put on a mask in order to simply get along. And we recognize that many of us who grew up in congregations and churches, that sometimes being that young individual during adolescence, and you began to realize that you're not like the other kids, that you had to kind of put on a facade or a mask in order to be accepted. But how wonderful it is to find a place where not only your identity, but also your spirituality can come together, and you feel like, I'm complete. I am at a place where I don't have to be one thing for one group and then something else for someone else. But indeed, I am a child of God. I have put my faith and trust in Christ. And I'm still beloved. I'm welcomed. Many of us have not, who are still out there, have not experienced that type of love like that before. But hopefully, those of you who have gathered here today have. You see, that's exactly what we are trying to create here in this community. One where you truly are welcomed. It doesn't matter about your race, your class, your gender identity, your sexual orientation, your past, your present, that you are welcome here. And you can come in and sit next to somebody that you may not even know, but you recognize that this is safe space. And so if I'm biologically male, but I'm a little feminine, I can come in and I'm not going to be judged. I'm not going to be laughed. And I can praise God in the way that I want to. If I'm biologically female, but I'm a little bit more butch, and I'm not all that emotional, I can come in and be that, and no one's going to judge me and say, well, you know they're serving coffee downstairs, you better get to it. That stereotypes and other boxes that we can put ourselves in don't apply here. I never knew love to be like that before. Can this be that place? In the parable in which Jesus was speaking about those who came to to the ruler and said again, when was it that we saw you hungry and we gave you food? Or thirsty and we gave you something to drink? Or then when did we see you as a stranger and welcomed you? Or naked and gave you clothing? Or when was it that we saw you in prison and visited you? I don't recall that. What do you mean? When did we do these things for you, our ruler? And Jesus is basically saying, when you show that level of care and concern for other people, you're doing it to me. Yes. You're doing it for me. Yes. You are a representative of my life and my love into other people. It is my desire, says Jesus, that I want to make sure everyone know they are loved beyond belief. Yes. And so when you recognize and accept and welcome somebody, you are my representative. Well done, good and faithful servant. I never knew love could be like this before. Many of us, as I mentioned, grew up in congregations and churches and synagogues where that level of love, that depth, simply did not exist. And I would say a large part of it probably had to do with the leader. Because when you have a church where the leader says, only do as I say, like choir sing as I sing is exactly the way I say. When you have a leader who wants to go it alone as a lone ranger and says, because I say this, do as I say, don't question me, you no longer have a church. You have a cult. A cult is when people gather together, they have no voice, their opinions don't matter. In fact, they all could really look like each other because there's no really individuality. It's all about what the one person says. We maybe have grown up in a church like that, and we don't really see it as a cult. But I would say any place of worship where you are not valued as an individual, and you come in to worship the loving and living God, but you don't feel this is a safe space, something is wrong with that. And so in the scripture that we read or heard earlier with Moses and his father-in-law Jethro, and his advice to him. Moses had the right heart, but he was running around trying to do everything. And Jethro recognized, he had to pull him aside and say, Moses, I know you. I know other people can't speak to you this way, but I can. So I'm going to pull you aside. I want you to sit, and I want you to hear what I have to say. You're driving yourself into the ground. You can't be all things for all people. You're only one person. But Jethro, I have this to do and that to do and all these other things. And he very wisely reminded him, take a look around you. You see all these other people? God is speaking to and through them as well. Amen. They have gifts. They can hear the voice of God as well. Trust them to do some of the tasks that need to be done, that are necessary. But then that's going to then reserve you to focus on other things. You see, I had a moment like that just last weekend. All right. Many of us gathered together for our strategic planning retreat. And I'm sitting and I'm listening, and it was good, and we're thinking about all of our plans for the future. And how can this ministry continue to grow deep and wide to have an impact on others? So this message of inclusion can get out to even more people. We began to have that discussion. And I'm sitting there and I'm stressing. And I get up and I take the marker and I start writing on the little flip chart. And I said to everyone who gathered, I'm like, How can I focus on strategic planning when I have all these other things to do? And I began to list them. I have to worry about our financial status. Are we bringing in enough money into the church? What about our leadership structure? People keep asking me, are we hiring another associate pastor? Our building location. Are we going to stay in Clawson forever, or are we planning to move somewhere else? What about our programming, both internal and external? What about the spiritual growth and the spiritual education of our community? Well, what about membership engagement and pastoral care and the welcome of our visitors? How can I do all of that and focus on strategic planning? And I looked at the faces of all who were there. All those who I spoke to and said, you inspired us to say, let us help you. And then I remembered, I'm not alone. This is not a cult of personality of Pastor Roland Stringfellow, but this indeed is a community where all can come in and we each are recognized as individuals in our individual gifts and our talents, and we have understood our callings from God to say, I can step up and I can do that. In fact, when I do that, God is pleased with me. Well done, good and faithful servant. Step back so other people can step up. All right. That is the type of community we want to build here. And so again, in the book of Acts, when the church was first coming together, that same type of message, that same type of community, that community that truly cares for one another, recognizes each individual, can be there in times of need, in times of celebration, that church gives. That church recognizes that other people have needs, and so I'm going to give to make sure other people feel loved beyond belief. In the book of Acts, the advice to the shepherds of the community reads as such: keep watch over yourself, meaning take good care of yourself. Self-care is important. And so when you do that, then you can take care of the flock, which the Holy Spirit made you as an overseer. Be shepherds of the church, which Jesus Christ bought with his blood. This is the Apostle Paul here talking. I have not craved anyone's silver or gold or clothes. You yourselves know that these hands of mine have supplied my own needs and those of my companions. And everything I did, I showed you by this kind of hard work that we must help those in need. In other words, Paul is teaching the leaders that if you really want to be a leader, help those in need. Remembering the words of Jesus when Jesus said, it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. What a blessing it is to hear someone say this. It is more blessed to give than it is to receive. I believe those congregations that take that to heart, it doesn't matter how big and massive they are or how small and church front, like a storefront church it is. If it is a community that values the individuals that come and gives to other people in their times of need, I believe it is those congregations that truly build something worth living for. Where the people who come and say, that's my church. Because I recognize that's safe space for me. They recognize me. They know me. They're going to be there. They got my back. And I recognize we're not the only church that does that. But that's the type of church we strive to be. Because we recognize the message of inclusion that we have is so very unique. Not everyone preaches that. Not everyone has a safe space to be their authentic self. in their identity as well as their spirituality? How can we continue to make this place grow deeper and wider in our outreach? It is through the giving of our gifts, the giving of our time and our talents and our financial blessings, the treasure. When we give, others are blessed. And others are at a place where they can recognize that, again, this is my home. Also, as the church began, one more scripture I want to read for you. And this is when the church came together in the early days. All who believed were together, and they had all things in common. They were different. They were different people, but they had all things in common. Why? Because it was because of the cause of Christ that they came together. It didn't matter if you were Pentecostal or if you were Catholic. It didn't matter if you were straight or if you were gay. Cisgender, transgender. That even in their differences, they could see they had one thing in common. And they would sell their possessions and goods and distribute the proceeds to all who had need. Day by day, they spent much time together in the temple, and they broke bread at home, and they ate food with glad and generous hearts. That was the blueprint of what the church should be. More than just coming in and just having a social encounter with somebody. But it is a place where you can connect with the living and loving God, where the leader recognizes your talents and your gifts and your strengths. And those who you sit next to have really gotten to know you. And you recognize, these are my people. This is safe space. This is home. Whoo, I never knew love could be like this before. That is the message that I really am hoping we can build here and take to other people. Today is the end of our stewardship campaign. And I call it Stewardship Campaign 2020. Obviously because next year is the year 2020. But also we recognize when it comes to 2020, that means clear vision. I and the other leaders here at the church want to make sure that you have clear vision what we are doing here. And the clear vision is not just solely we can pay the bills and pay salaries. That's crucial, that's important. But as we gathered last week to talk about our strategic planning, we have some grandiose plans that we want to accomplish. But we will not, as good stewards of your money, start planning and growing beyond what the budget numbers say. And so again, if we're at a place where we say, yes, more people need to know that we are here and this place exists, and we want to contribute money to buy a building of our own and grow deeper and wider with our outreach, it has to be all of us. All of us have to be partners in this ministry. And so you see up here the stone. The preaching series has been Stone Love, meaning a love that you can count on, that's going to be solid, it's going to be there. We invite you to come and to sign your name on a stone to say, you can count on me. I recognize what this community has done for me, and I want to make sure it is like that for others as well. And so, if indeed you are planning to be with us another year from here, then let us know that we can count on you. Let us know what we can expect. And at any point in time, you can change that pledge. But when we can count on you, that then tells us how big we can dream. How inclusive this ministry is actually going to be. Why do we do what we do? It's because we want to make sure other people know that they are loved beyond belief. That there indeed can be a space where you can be all of your fabulous self and praise your God at the same time. So I invite you, if you have not done that yet, inside your bulletin, I believe, should be the pledge cards. If not, at the end of our time today, I'm going to invite you to be partners with us. Would you go to the next and final slide? So in what ways do you care for those in your community? How do you share your time and your talent and your financial treasure to usher in other people so they know they are loved beyond belief? Please take a moment to reflect upon this question.